Do you love epic fantasy books? Well, so do I. Welcome back, book nerds. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to my channel. This is my list of my top-down best favorite epic fantasy books. Or high fantasy, adult fantasy, however you want to call it. But this are my favorite. Starting with Brandon Sanderson. We're going to start with Brandon Sanderson and we're going to end with Brandon Sanderson. But first off, Mistborn. Love Mistborn. If you've watched my channel before, you know how much Brandon Sanderson as an author means to me, and his work on Mistborn was the thing that drew me in first. I absolutely loved Mistborn. Next, The Name of the Wind, the Kingkiller Chronicles. Patrick Rothfuss, fantastic. Not finished. He's working on it. Slowly, but he's working on it. Amazing story. Amazing books. Must read. Next, Brent Weeks, the Lightbringer series. I love Lightbringer. Lightbringer is a fun story. I keep thinking I should reread Lightbringer. It's so fun. Next, Senlin Ascends. What a fantastic story. Great story. Interestingly written. The whole tale of the Tower of Senlin Ascends is so worth your time. It's great. I think it would make a great TV show. I absolutely love that series. Fantastic. Next, a book I've talked about many times, The Powder Mage. Powder Mage trilogy is so unique. It's great. It's muskets in fantasy. I love the idea of muskets being in fantasy books. The whole sword and arrow thing gets old, so to have it migrate to black powder muskets, very fun. Next, BABEL, R.F. Kuang. I absolutely love the book. If you know me, you know how much I love BABEL. And that brings me to the next one, The Poppy War. Same author, R.F. Kuang. Poppy War, absolutely fantastic. It's heart-wrenching. It like rips your guts out. You fall in love with these characters, and it's just so good. And then, of course, another unfinished series that will probably never be finished, Game of Thrones. But you can't deny the craftsmanship that went into these books. They were so well written, so detailed. You could feel every aspect. I love Game of Thrones. Next, we have John Gwynne's Shadow of the Gods. He is such a great epic fantasy writer, and the characters are so important. You really dive into these characters. Next, The Blade itself, Joe Abercrombie. What a great book, a dark fantasy. I absolutely love it. I keep talking about The Blade itself. You must read it. Keep reading Joe Abercrombie. Next, Robin Hobb, The Ship of Magic. I love this series. The Ship of Magic, great book, great characters. I love fantasy at sea. I absolutely love it. Next, we have The Mists of Avalon. This is an old fantasy story that is great. I love The Mists of Avalon. And my last two are probably my most important, starting with The Wheel of Time. The Wheel of Time is such an amazing work of fantasy that it's right there with Lord of the Rings. They're probably the two most important fantasy books ever written. But that brings us to my top favorite fantasy novel of all time. And many of you may not agree with me, but you probably know what I'm going to say. Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. Such a great epic fantasy book. Such a great epic fantasy world. The detail, the characters, the emotion. I absolutely love it. So, that's my list. Read fast.